Good morning, guys. April 3rd. Can't believe it's already April. That is ridiculous. But anyway, on this very fine day, we finally get into the book of Joshua. And I love the book of Joshua because of what Joshua represents and just how God works through him and how he allows God to work through him and marching around the city and it falling and all they did was march and blow their trumpets. And anyways, just good stuff all around. As I'm reading Joshua and the story of him, I can't help but realize and think of all the similarities that are between Joshua and Moses and how God dealt with Moses is a lot the same way that God deals with Joshua. Now, not exactly, but he even goes on. He sends a messenger and he says, "Take off your sandals because the ground you are standing is holy." And it's the same thing that he did with Moses at the burning bush. "Take off your sandals because the ground you are standing on is holy because I am here." And just love seeing God work through Joshua. But the question that I have is, why are there so many similarities between Joshua and Moses? Think about it. I'll pause a little bit. The reason I think there are similarities is because Moses took time out of his day. He took time to mentor Joshua and to spend time with him and to bring him up and say, "Hey, God has called you to lead on to his people, and I'm going to prepare you for that." And they spent time together, and it goes hand in hand with what we've been talking about, this idea of mentorship, and that really our faith journey is not on our own, but rather it is with a community, with a group of believers. And the reason that there are young people worshiping with older people is so that the younger people can see how the older people do it and they can imitate it and they can learn from it, or they can even learn from the older people's mistakes. And the reason that the older people are worshiping with the younger is because sometimes us younger people, we can show them new things that they haven't experienced before. It's this idea of being in relationship with one another to where we learn and we grow, and it's the Spirit working through us and through the people around us to point us toward God and point us toward Jesus. And so I want to encourage you this week to think about the person in your life that is like a mentor to you, or think about the person that you can be a mentor to and that you can bring up in Christ. And we all have something to offer, and it is the devil's lies to say, "Hey, you know what, you can do this on your own and you don't need to talk to that younger person who may be going through the same thing you are because you have nothing to offer." Okay, God has given us all a part in his kingdom, and he's given us all a voice. And so take time this week and pray about the person that you may end up wanting to talk to, or that you may end up wanting to mentor, and ask God to put that on your heart. Because as we see Joshua deal with God's kingdom, it was learned from somewhere. And I truly believe that it was because of the relationship that he had with Moses. And of course, that's not the only thing that contributed. Also, what I love in the story of Joshua today is how when they cross the Jordan for the first time, that it dries up. He asks the Levites with the ark to go in front, and as soon as their toes touch the water, what happens? The water stops right there. It stops coming from upstream, and it just, what's the word that they, I forget the word that they use, but it just basically piles elsewhere, and they get to walk on dry ground. And they get to do exactly what their forefathers, their ancestors did when they were led out of Egypt. And I just love the imagery of God using dry ground to lead them out of Egypt. And then what's he doing? He's going to, again, lead them through dry ground, where there was supposed to be water, through dry ground, into the promised land. It kind of marks this, this is the beginning, and this is a new beginning, and here is a new beginning as well, after the wilderness. And just how awesome that would be to walk on dry ground and be able to see the stones that were there. It says they picked up stones. 12 men were appointed, and they had to pick up 12 stones, and not just a stone and carry it. They had to put it on their shoulder. This was a huge stinking stone. And they took the stones back to camp, and they built a memorial so that they could remember, hey, this is when God gave you a new beginning. This is when God led you on dry ground. How often in our lives do we come to a crossing point where it's, I don't know how to cross this. There's this storm. There's too much water. I can't do that. And God all of a sudden dries up that ground, and He says, "With me, you can walk through." I can think of times in my life when that happened. So anyway, I just want to encourage you guys to have a blessed day and continue to grow in Christ. I'm proud of you guys. And by the way, it's Victoria Pacelli's birthday, so tell her happy birthday if you haven't already. All right, love you guys.